Welcome to Cafecito with Rosie on Air Season 3. This season, we are focusing in leadership with a servant heart. Thank you again for being such a great supporters and such a great followers of what I call it, my friends, who they are, what they do, and how they change the community. So today, I'm honored to have Melvin here from Stairway for Heroes, a new nonprofit that he actually created back in the day when he was in the Navy, and just had a very successful golf tournament. So Melvin, tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, what you do, and how you help the community.
Well, Rosie, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your show. I started with the Navy almost 15 years ago. Joined when I was 30, and really was focused on career, and making sure that I advanced. Through that, I did not see the damage that it was doing at home, unfortunately, with my family. And at the 13-year mark, my wife and I, Elga, decided to walk away. It was more important for us for the family, and in the transition and in the whole process of getting out, that's where Stairway for Heroes came from.
Yes. So this is something very important that I always want to make a point for my viewers. And it's like you were able to catch on time that what was taking so long in your job was, if on the lack for a better word, destroying or hurting your family.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to have that come to Jesus moment, right? To realize that the job is not worth it, right? That your family is more important. How hard was that for you as a man, as a provider?
Well, I mean, I still battle with it today. You were present at the tournament, and you heard the speech at the end where I tell people, and I had to apologize to my wife for my focus and how I reacted that morning. Was just straight military. You know what I mean? Blinders on and forward, and you don't really focus on the damage that you're doing. And it was the same thing throughout my career. I was looking at it from a positive standpoint. I was advancing. I did make rank pretty fast, faster than the average. But you don't see it. You don't see it. We did have an incident occur that unfortunately was the moment that my eyes opened. And when I was home on a special assignment, I realized how much I play a role in my family, other than just, you know what I mean?
Provider.
Working. Yes, exactly. Right. Working and providing. And at the time, I gave the Navy one more opportunity. I said, okay, please leave me in Jacksonville. Please leave me in Jacksonville. I was here in Tampa. Never been stationed on the East Coast. I've always been a West Coast sailor in San Diego. And they gave me orders for a ship that was going to Spain. And that was what kind of, broke the camel's back, right? I couldn't. My daughter was a sophomore in high school. Elga had just begun working at Geopoint Surveying, and I couldn't leave. I just couldn't see myself leaving. So many things have occurred during the process that just solidified that the decision was the right one. It wasn't an easy one. It was not an easy one. And I still battle with it every single day, in the sense of my own mental health and my own personal battles that I battle with. And that is one of them. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, oh, that wasn't the right decision. I'd walked away at 14 and a half years. I didn't end up with a pension. So, but you look at it from a money standpoint, but God has taken care of me and my family, and he has provided. And as my income level, changed, my wife's increased, with a raise and position. Yes. So everything has balanced out. But it was not an easy decision.
Yeah. And big shout out to Elga. We love you. You have an amazing husband. Thank you for let me borrow him for my show for a little bit. And thank you for all you've done for my family. Elga is just an amazing woman. They say behind a great man, there's a great woman.
An even greater woman.
Yes. And she came to one of my events, met my niece, which, by the way, you had met my niece first. And now my niece is working for Elga, which we are are so grateful. And every time I talk to her, she says, "Oh, Titi, this has been the best job ever." It's her first job, but she said the best job ever. And she looks forward to all the things she's learning, as you point. So your foundation, what's the goal of your foundation?
My foundation and our goal is to help as many veterans fight the fight against the invisible. Mental health, unfortunately, suicidal ideations, everything that comes from a negative standpoint on mental health affects people in different ways. I've been to Afghanistan, I've been to war, so I am a combat veteran. But a combat veteran isn't the same. We could have deployed together, and it affects people differently. So my goal is just to help as many veterans as I can. And what we're utilizing is the game of golf, and giving them clubs, giving them lessons and opportunities to play throughout the year, to help in that. It also brings community. It also brings, you're a part of something again.
Unity.
And we're so spread out in Tampa. You know what I mean? I grew up here. I moved here in '88. It's a lot different than it was in '88 when I was gone for 14 years. It's changed a lot in 14 years, but veterans are all over the place. We go as far down as Waimama and Apollo Beach and further on down, and we go all the way to Brooksville, and we consider all Tampa.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just a huge area. So this is a way to get people together, to see who you can meet. You know what I mean? When you're playing golf, you're stuck anywhere between 2 to 4 hours with the person in the cart with you. So you tend to develop a good relationship, a good friendship, good conversation with the person, and that's what we're shooting for.
Good. And again, mental health, you talk about this, and affects many of our veterans, many of the people in the military, PTSD, things that, like you said, there's silence, and there were taboos. There were things that people did not talk about back in the day. I believe that because of all the things, first of all, military or veterans were not as honored as they are acknowledged. I will say acknowledged. I think everybody honors our military because, we will not be able to be the free country that we are without the service and the sacrifice for our men and women in uniform. But I think it's bigger now where we are becoming more aware of these things have effect. You enlist. Now, we haven't had, so this is voluntarily, right? So we haven't had people that they call you and make you do a soldier, what is that, an enlistment, mandatory enlistment for many, many years. So everybody that you see in the military right now, they actually volunteer to go and serve our community and serve our amazing country. So things that happens when they come back is something that we are aware that we need to have some conversations, some tough conversations. And it affects everybody. And I think one of the things with Tampa too, which I got to see that day at your event, is how involved everybody wants to be part of, right? You had you have many volunteers that donated their time, not only their financial resources, but their time to be there, and other than the golf too and the game and everything. But many people were there for the camaraderie too and the unity. And at the end of the day, to support you and give you a little kick off and said, here you go, break a leg, now go do your thing.
It was a great event. We had 128 golfers. We had over 30 volunteers. We had a great photo booth. We had sponsors. We had an hour rain delay, and a lot of people don't remember that from Fridays, that we had an hour rain delay.
Oh, wow.
No one left. Everyone stayed, and the course was great. Plantation Palms did a great job with the course and how it weathered the rain. And you would have never known that it was the first or inaugural tournament for a foundation. At least that's what people tell me.
Right.
I'm very happy with where we're at. Very thankful for everyone that supported. But from what people tell me, man, that's a lot of people that you got. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's great. I don't know any better. But I'm truly thankful. All my family, most of my family was there. One of my daughters wasn't able to go because of work, but my youngest was there, and my parents were there. Elga, obviously, in Geopoint Surveying, they had a bunch of people there,
Right.
and we had different volunteers from from just different places. It was just simply amazing to see people come together for for a common cause. And that day was just to have a great tournament, and everyone left, I think, with a smile and a great time,
Right.
and looking forward to next year's.
Yeah, to the next one. When's the next one? Which I'm going to give a big shout out to the Photo Booth Express, which is my amazing daughter Tabitha. She does such a wonderful job making sure that your photos, and my sister Carla creates the background, and then Tabitha does the pictures, and they all come out amazing. And then they tailor made to what event that you want to
We
do or have.
We have a great memory, I have to tell you. We have a
Yes.
great memory, Elga and I, as the tournament was going, because in the picture, it looks like, okay, we're okay. But like 2 seconds before that, we were running around. We just like took the picture, and it was great because it's sitting on my fridge and I see it every day. So I love it.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So you also talk about Valerie, which big shout out to Valerie, my sister in Leadership Tampa Bay. You took her class and her courses. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
So my idea for Stairway for Heroes was started back in May. I got out in August of last year, so I've almost been out a year. And I know Valerie, and we talked about, hey, she would tell me, hey, you need to come and do Action Zone. I'm okay, yeah, and it's not the right time. You know what I mean? After a couple times, I finally said, okay, it was my get off the toilet moment.
Right.
We'll keep it clean. I am a Navy sailor, so I have to watch myself sometimes. And I took her class, and in Action Zone, what it does is it took away a lot of the uncertainties. I am a finance major. I've worked in business, worked in banking before. I joined the military, was in sales and things of that nature. So I think I have a good idea of kind of how some things should work, but not everything.
Right.
And that class, helps you with the business plan, helps you, kind of locating who your customer was. Mine was a little bit different than everybody else because mine on the nonprofit end, but still it was very, very helpful to get the information. Met a lot of great people, actually. Johan was present, Never a Stranger Cigar. I met him there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he was at the tournament.
Right.
So, it met a lot of great people, gathered a lot of great information. But more than anything, just kind of got over the hump, got over the obstacle of, okay, I'm that fear, right? Am I really going to do this? Yes. And I told my wife, I said, hey, the class finished in December. I think it was like the first or second week of December. And I said, hey, we're launching this in January. And through social media, I did everything. And that's where we started. So I'm very thankful to Valerie and Rosie for all their help with Action Zone. It's a great course.
Valerie is from Action Zone. So we're going to put this, her website there too, because she is doing amazing things for our veterans community. Now, Elga and you and your marriage, let's talk a little bit about that, because, a big part of also being an entrepreneur is putting your priorities straight. And you made that decision of having your family first. So as a couple, what do you guys kind of do to work your schedule? Do you guys have a set day? I know sometimes you say she's tired, so she just wants.
Yes.
How do you manage that? How are you able to put all that together? She has a full-time job. So how does that work for you guys?
Well, because I didn't get to retire, I have to have a full-time job too. So I work for Khaki International as a government contractor, working in curriculum and in training, which is what my last assignment in the Navy was over my job. So I still have to have a full-time job. I still got to do, Stairway for Heroes in the afternoon. And with Geopoint Surveying, they've grown so much over the last year and a half that she's all over the place. She went from HR director. She's now the COO. She's the chief operating officer of Geopoint Surveying. They have offices, I think, and I might say it wrong, I think they have like 7 offices throughout the state. Now South Carolina, looking to Texas. So she's always busy.
Right.
So one of the things that we've had to instill is just, okay, now it's the time where we're just going to sit down and we're going to talk. We're just going to talk. How was her day? How was my day? and usually sometimes that works, sometimes it's busy enough or it doesn't. But we also utilize networking events for as kind of like a date night. So we go and we love to meet people. We can go and talk to people, and at the end of the night, we figure out who met who, and she talks about the foundation, I talk about GeoPoint survey, and so we're always there for each other. But we work on doing things together because it's easy, and I used to remember it in the military. It's easy not to. It's easy to come home and be tired, and it's easy to, put on the ball game,
Right,
or it's easy
right.
for her to put on her shows,
Right.
and it's easy for us to, in a relaxing fashion, be away from each other, and that over time, can definitely hurt the relationship. So
Right.
we try to do as much as we can, together. Sneak in a couple date nights here and there, but definitely just try to do as many things as we can together to
Yeah.
avoid the separation.
And teamwork, and what works for you might not work for you, but at least make something that you and your spouse or you and your family do together. Because the worst thing, I have not yet heard an entrepreneur that says, I'm gonna quit my job so I can start my own business, work 80 hours and lose my family in the process.
Yeah.
We all have a great intention, but I think the first thing that they don't understand is that because the job, if you don't have a clear understanding, it can become a tyrant, and it can take all your time, and all your time away from your family can have those consequences that we can, if you just adjusted to put those things first, everything else, works around it. Because that's the beauty about, being able to be a leader is this is my non-negotiables, and we will work around it. And a lot of people will accept those boundaries. So you have a Bible verse that you were sharing with
Yes.
me.
Yes,
So tell me a little bit about that.
It's my favorite Bible verse. It's something that, for me, it's very powerful because, everybody wants to do work, and they want to get paid for the work. They want to do something and receive either the accolade or the transmit of whatever it is, the service that they're doing.
So you want to read it? And let's
But
see.
with mine is basically, Colossians 3:23, where it says, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ. And that's how I look at it, because the work that I'm doing here, with Stairway for Heroes, we have one golfer right now that is going through lessons. We're going to start, I think we're going to get up to 3 or 4 and get them completed, get them the clubs and get them the lessons, get them playing.
Right.
But it's more than just the golf. It's the conversations. It's how they're doing. And I just feel that it's not for a reward that I'm going to receive here.
Right.
I'm doing it to bring people closer to Christ. And, between golf and Christ and God is why I'm here today.
Right.
I wouldn't be without it. And some people may say, why golf? Well, golf is my outlet. It has helped me and it has changed me.
Right.
But my ground, my roots have always been, with God and with Christ, and making sure that I read my daily, my daily informational, and get the right info and the right input into the brain, so that I can, fight the day and fight what comes up.
Yeah. I always jokingly said, but Christians should be sued for misrepresentation, because we're supposed to be the feet and the hands of Christ, and sometimes we're not making that good representation, because our Savior was just so in love with the world that, God gave his only begotten Son to die for our sins, right? But it's not talking about it, it's walking the walk that I always tell people, right? It's how do you, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have bad days. Doesn't mean that you become a Christian today and everything is rosy and you're not going to have a family member passed away or anything that could happen because now you're a Christian. It has nothing to do with that. It's how you're looking for that joy of the Lord to be the way of your response to those situations, right? And how do you govern yourself? How do you behave yourself? And that doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, right? But it's just like a guidance of who and what you want to be, what makes you happy.
It's helpful. Part of a Christian men's group here in Tampa, and those guys, those are my brothers. I see them every Friday morning. It's called In His Grip is after golf,
Right.
and we review chapters every day, and it's funny when you're reading the word, something always jumps out at you,
Right.
and kind of hits you and brings attention to it, and that's what we do, and what we're there for is there to support each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just another form or another group that, to form support, because it is not easy. You know what I mean? There's so many different things that I could say, even with kids, today, and challenges. And, at the end of the day, usually when something bad is happening, there's some kind of distraction occurring, because they don't want you to get to the place where you're going to get to. And sometimes we spend a lot of time in that frustration and focusing on the present, whereas sometimes if we just focus on the door in front of us and walk through that door, you know what I mean? We tend to kind of put that stuff, the negative stuff aside. It doesn't go without bad things happening, doesn't go without negative things occurring. You just kind of navigate through the situation a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think, listen, one of the things that is happening is our society shames people, especially gentlemen, on being with other gentlemen and create that masculinity that you guys were created to be, right? Providers, protectors, society is telling you women don't need you, but then you have your children having issues because they're looking for the father figure in their home, right? And I'm so glad that you are talking about having a men's group and having a support group. How important you think that is in your everyday life, and then not only for you, but to help others?
Well, I think it's important. I think that you always have to have a positive outlet to be able to converse about what it is that you're going through. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes you got to tell somebody, man, it's going really, really good, right? Because we always used to say, oh, well, you're going to tell me something bad. But for me, it's extremely important to have an outlet for me to be able to get my feelings out. It's one of the things that I've struggled with since the Navy.
Right.
Elga, I'll tell you, I was used to turning off my emotions.
Right.
Because, when you go on deployment, you're gone 8.5, 9.5 months, 10.5 months, whatever, a year. You don't want the focus to be on the feelings of what is going on back home. Your focus is on the mission at hand, unfortunately. So I got good at turning off my feelings. I'm now starting through my process, and I'll be the first to admit I suffer from PTSD. I have, mental health illnesses that I battle with every single day. And I'm just happy to say that I'm on this side of the percentages instead of a different statistic. Because it did get dark. Whenever you leave the military and you're trying to figure out what's the future going to bring, you don't know.
Right.
But that is where they came in. They helped, and I could go there, and if I had to shed a tear, I would shed a tear, and I would say, man, this is what's going on. This is the challenge that I was having with my youngest daughter. Like, what do? I just got back. I don't know what to do, guys. And you know what I mean? And and it would always work out that as we were talking about things, we would find it in the word, and then we would find something to at least be able to go through that day and leave somewhat more calm than I was when I came in. So it's very important for people to have a support system that you can go to and you can trust to tell the information.
And trust, that's the big one there, because you can surround yourself with people that they can say, yeah, you should try this and you should try that. But if they haven't walked through it, they got great intentions, good intentions. They want to help you. Some of them are trying really hard. But the reality is that unless you walk through those shoes, it's very difficult to understand what you're going through, right? And then, and sometimes they're still going through those shoes. So that doesn't mean that they overcame whatever challenge or trouble that even you are going. But they're actually ahead of you, so they can at least guide you and say, you know that what, this worked for me.
Yeah.
Did you try this? Did you try that? So and it's the same with business, right? Who and you surround yourself in business. I always tell people that sometimes we got these people, these teachers in universities teaching business administrations, and they never own a business. So I heard this saying that says, experience eats training for breakfast. Because the reality is one thing of you reading it in the book of what you have to do, and another one is the experience of having to deal with that in your business. Right?
Well, and it's even in reverse. The challenge that most military people come out with is we have the experience. I show people all the time, you know, my safe that I had in Africa. I was the only guy in Africa that had money. So, you know, it was nothing to look at $25 million. It was nothing to hold $1 million. So, you know, it through your experience and through things that occur, you know, I mean, I lost it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
I lost my train of thought, and that's the bad part. It's CRS. You guys can figure out what the CRS stands for. But yes, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no. When you were talking about in Africa, that you had
the amount of money. I'm sorry. Yes, the amount of money and the experience that we have, and when you come out into the real world to find the job, that experience is not as either apparent or as some. It is attractive to some companies, but you do see a lot of veterans that struggle with work,
right?
And finding work and finding their purpose and finding who they're going to be. Again, same thing of what I struggled with today. It's like, okay, who's Melvin now? I knew who Chief Azofeifa was. I knew who Chief Ace was, but who's Melvin now? What is Melvin going to do? Who is Melvin going to be? And the foundation has helped me greatly, and that's what I want to do for other people, is to try to help them. I'm not saying that they're going to open a foundation.
Right.
I'm not saying that they're going to find immediate happiness in their relationship or whatever it is that they may be ailing, but they may leave with just something else in their tool belt, or just another avenue, or just leaving a little bit more calm than they did when they came in. And that's part of what we're trying to help with in the foundation.
Yeah. And one of the things that I heard from one actually of the speakers at Valerie's class, Ross, I can't remember his name, but anyway, he was saying,
Russisms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so he mentioned about, and you can either create a community or join a community, and that's how you build relationships. He was talking about that. And this is the first time where he says, Rosie, you have a community. And I said, I do? Like, what is it? And he says, you have the Where is Rosie community. And it made me realize that in Tampa, a lot of people want to create their own community. We all support each other, but some of them overlap, right? So you're trying to get the attention from the same people that they're doing that. So instead of competing, why not joining and doing it together? But there is so much opportunity and so many people moving into Tampa too. Tampa right now is in the top 3 places where people move to because of work or because of our beautiful weather and all the things that there's happening. So if you're new into the area, don't forget to reach out to us. We would love to connect you. We would love to hook you up. In this little town is who you know. I'd say Tampa is a big city with a small town charm, and it is who you know in here. And we'd love to connect with you if you're new into the area. The other mention, what do you think the military did for you in the discipline aspect of it? Because I do believe that a lot of business owners, when they come and decide to do a business, they don't know where to start. And they think, well, now they don't have a job to go to, like a 9 to 5. And now they have to rely on the discipline. How do you think that routine that was established with you in the Navy help you with everything that you do right now?
It's the discipline aspect. This is what I tell people. I think the military is great. I think it's great. I think that any person that goes into the military needs to take advantage of whatever programs they have available, because the military is going to get out of you what they need.
Right.
That's just a simple statement. But my daily interactions or my daily process, it's I've always had some sort of process where I wake up at a certain time and I'm going to the gym at a certain time. I'm getting to the gym before all the sailors get on the ship so that I can do my work, and then my workout doesn't take 3 hours. There's always reasons of how I did things, but it did help me. It reinforced, thanks to my mom, it reinforced a lot of my mom's, upbringings and how she brought me up. My mom was, she's retired from the Department of Environment Protection here in the state of Florida, studied in Brazil, worked in Costa Rica, then came here to the States. And her thing for me was always to, education was one of her things. But her and I were very alike. So I would know when my mom was going to clean the sheets. I knew when my mom was going to sweep. I knew when my mom was going to, and it was all part of her process. It was just engraved in her. And even now when she's retired, she still does the same thing. So if I call her on Saturday mornings, I know that she's washing her sheets. That's just what she did. And that helped me structurally to be able to get things done and to really break out my day. But in the military, as you mentioned, when it comes to discipline, I was 32 years old. I was an E4, and I had a supervisor that was 23 years old and had been in the military longer than I have, and that person was my boss. So I had to respect that. Right. A lot of people don't like that. So through my process in the military and throughout the years that I was there, you experience that, and you experience humbleness really more than anything. But then there's the other side, right? When you're driving in a war zone, you're going from A to B. Goal is to get from A to B and to get the people that are in your vehicle from A to B safely. And it's tunnel vision. It's, it's getting there, and the disciplining in that comes a little bit differently because you got to plan the trip. You got to know which way you're going to go if something occurs. You got to tell the people, hey, this is our plan. This is what we're going to do. But discipline definitely has helped me out a lot. It kept me on pace. It kept me like, okay, Melvin, you didn't do anything yesterday. We need to do something today, right? Something as simple as even just a post to thank my sponsors as I was getting my sponsors, things like that. So it really has helped me to stay in a straight line and on a schedule.
Right.
Not as good every day, my wife will tell you. Not as good every day, but you have the good days and the bad days.
But exactly, we're not perfect. Now, the last thing, and this probably going to take us a little bit into our closing of the show. People think that because you have a nonprofit, you treat it different from a business. But at the end of the day, that's not entirely true. So tell me a little bit about you coming from your major background in finances and stuff like that. There's things that they defer, but there's things that they really not defer. So how will you, what will be a tip that you will give somebody? Because everybody wants to create a foundation. Everybody wants to create a foundation. Why they want to create a foundation? It's a great, dream and things, but it takes a lot of work. It's like a business.
Oh, no.
So tell me in your experience.
Oh, no, it is. You asked me right when I came in, how are you feeling? The tournament's been 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, man, I'm still not over it. Like, you know what I mean? There's just so much work that comes into it. Now, mine is obviously a golf foundation. Anybody will tell you there's a lot that goes into making a golf tournament. But one of the things that I learned through Action Zone is that you have your customers, right? And you have to learn that even as a nonprofit, I do have customers. My customers are not only for me, are the people that came to play golf, right? They want them to have a good time.
Right.
So hopefully they'll come back next year. Same thing with the sponsors. I hope that they receive enough from what the money that they gave me through marketing and through everything else that I'm doing for them, that they will come back. So, in business, if you don't have customers, I don't know many businesses that don't have customers and make money. I know investments and maybe those things, but mostly a business has a particular customer, and that customer has to be happy to come back and do repeat business with that person. So the way that I approached it, the numbers side of me was, okay, I know that each veteran is going to cost me X amount of dollars for lessons. I know each veteran is going to cost me X amount of dollars if I have to go out and buy clubs, if I get clubs donated, you know what I mean? So you figure out that once you start looking at it from that aspect, you're like, wait a minute, these are costs. So if I have a cost, where's the revenue, right? Because I can't just have a cost and not have any kind of revenue coming in.
Right.
I mean, you can, but it's not going to last very long. So, that the ideals of, okay, well, I do have costs. Okay, so how am I going to create my revenue to offset those costs? Because if I don't offset the cost as a nonprofit, it comes out of my pocket.
Right.
Me and my wife are very involved. She is very involved, even with all her work in the foundation. So that's why I say if I don't cover those costs, then it's coming out of my pocket to make sure that we continue. So mine was just really focusing on the fact, and Action Zone did help with it, as you start to learn your customers and you start to look at your business plan, you start to realize, wait a minute, I have expenses. So if I have an expense, I have to create some type of revenue. Now, where would I create that revenue? And that's how businesses have to think, right? I have a customer. I have this, I have that. How do I get from point A to point B? For me, was really looking at the costs, looking at the fact that, okay, I got to come up with, something. And then that's where, a little bit different when in a business, whereas you're selling something. For me, I was, fundraising, through the idea of what we're doing for veterans. And that's helping them, fight all the stuff that we can't see, and creating the community, as you mentioned earlier, of veterans that, they like to golf.
Right.
It's a niche.
Awesome. Well, my friends, as we close this episode right now, I want to thank you so much for coming and visit me today, for having a cafecito, for having the courage to start something that serves so many and so in such a big need. And the foundation actually still in the works of getting you a website, but how can people get a hold of you?
Right now, and I mentioned this to you earlier, I mean, we're not groundbreaking anymore. We're crawling. We're almost walking because of the success in our first event. But working with getting the website, up and running. But through LinkedIn, through Instagram, and through Facebook, Stairway for Heroes has a page on all those platforms, and on there has my all my contact information. Or I'm an easy person to find, Melvin Azofeifa. I'm sure my name will, you'll see it on there. So that's an easy last name to find. Please reach out, and I would love to, to speak to anyone that wants any information or wants to help. Always looking for people to help us out. So
awesome. Well, my friends, now you guys understand that there is another nonprofit organization in the Tampa Bay area, and that if your heart is to help veterans and also play the amazing game of golf, this is an organization that you need to get to know better, okay? And remember, my friends, business and nonprofits are also looking for the same thing, which is finding that niche of those people that they're going to follow you, and they're going to find you, and they're going to do business with you because they like you, they trust you, and they want to give you their money, right? Exactly. Because they believe in what you stand for. So thank you so much for watching us. Have a wonderful rest of your time. Stay pure, stay positive, and stay inspired. Ciao.